Hello everyone, welcome back. We just got back from the Pawpaw Festival in York, Pennsylvania, so I thought I'd make a video on our Pawpaw haul from the festival. These are all of the named varieties that we purchased, and we'll go through a few of them, and then I'll do a little tasting video on a couple of them, just to show you how different they are variety to variety. You know, there's a ton of difference in pawpaws, just like any other fruit, between one kind and another, so it's something to always remember with pretty much anything that you're buying or growing. But you can see just from the size difference. Now what's neat about pawpaws, these are Shenandoah right here, these are Allegheny. I put a star on the ones that are ready to eat right away when they get really soft. But what's neat about pawpaws, one of the many things, is you don't eat the skin. So that lends itself well to just labeling the variety right on the skin like that. Just sort of a code. That's an Overleese. Look at that thing. That thing is gigantic. That's awesome. That could use a day or two on the counter still. Some of the other ones are more ripe. But you can see most of them are kind of like that size. Shenandoahs are pretty large. We have a Shenandoah tree in our yard that has 3 fruit on them. They're probably about this size right now. Little guys. But they're our first fruit. But all of these came from the festival, so what's great about that is you know what kind you're buying. Sometimes when you order them online, what you're going to get is just a collection of wilds. These are all wild ones that we got as well while we were down there. And you can kind of see the difference, the average size of these versus the average size of these. And when I do this, it's really stark. So you take kind of like an average named variety, put it next to the wilds, and you can see it's just gigantic. So one big difference in the named varieties of pawpaws is these were selected for better flavor. Sometimes the wild ones, although you know they look really nice, they can sometimes have this really strong bitter aftertaste. And so it just depends. It's luck of the draw. It's like a wild apple. Wild apples are the same way. You know, some are delicious and some are just terrible. So the named varieties, like a lot of fruit, they're selected for their desirable qualities. So you can see something like this sunflower. I mislabeled it. Something like the sunflower here is much, much larger than even a fairly large wild. The other thing, in terms of desirable characteristics, size is always one with fruit, of course, is when pawpaws come into play in particular, is that aftertaste they can have, this sort of really bitter aftertaste that the wilds can have. So these are selected to not have that, and the sunflower is really good. Shenandoah, Overleese, all of these, they are almost none of that taste, or none at all, depending on the variety. Another desirable trait for pawpaws is seed to flesh ratio. When you see something like this that's just absolutely gigantic, this thing probably is pushing a pound, this Overleese, and you compare it to something like this, which is kind of an average size wild. Look at those two next to each other. It's not even close. This might have just as many seeds in terms of number as this. So what happens is pawpaw seeds are really big. They're gigantic. And so the more flesh you have versus seeds, of course, the more fruit you have to eat, and the more desirable it is to eat. You can cut this open. It's going to have those big seeds, but it's going to have a lot more flesh to seed than something like this, which, you know, is smaller to start with, but it's also going to be packed with seeds, or may not. Wild, it's luck of the draw. There are some wild that are absolutely fantastic. The other thing that pawpaws are often selected for, so you can see some of our wilds got bruised on the way home, but look how nice and dark orange that is. Look at that. That's a wild pawpaw right there. Gorgeous color. We'll just eat that later. But some of them are white, some of them are orange, some of them are yellow. These are the different varieties, you know, so things like mango and sunflower are really yellow. Pennsylvania golden is a really dark one. Something like Shenandoah, one of my absolute favorites, tends to be a lighter yellow, kind of ivory white on that end of the spectrum. Something like an Allegheny, also sort of a lighter color. So pawpaws really can range from like white, almost like pure white, all the way to a really orangish yellow, really, really dark, dark yellow. And so that scale also comes with different flavors. So you can get melon flavors, you can get banana flavors, you can get sort of the more darkly colored ones like these that are orange tend to be a lot more intensely flavored than the whiter ones, and have less bitterness, although that isn't always true. That's sort of a rule of thumb. That's our haul from the festival. Most of these are like $4 a fruit, the big ones, and they're not cheap. These Overleese though were $3 a fruit, which is funny because they're a lot bigger than like Allegheny. Allegheny, so this is sort of like one of those things, and the star just tells me eat that one first because it's a little soft. Allegheny is one of those that sort of defies those rules I was just talking about. It's really seedy, but it's an absolutely amazing flavor. And so it's one of those name varieties that sort of got through, even though it didn't have the desirable trait necessarily of size. You can sort of see compared to a lot of these other ones. Or seed to flesh ratio. But the thing it has going for it is the flesh is absolutely outstanding. So this is a fantastic pawpaw, Allegheny. Zero bitterness at all, just absolutely delicious. So that's what'll happen. And just like any other fruit, you know, when you select for traits, some kind of take precedence over others, and a delicious fruit is always going to take first precedence.